Sometimes the law is complicated. Sometimes lawyers make it complicated. Other times it's so damn simple, you don't need a fancy law degree to figure it out. Reminds me of that old Saturday Night Live skit with the caveman lawyer making these very simple arguments about why he's right. Sometimes that's the case. And that's the case in tomorrow's big case at the U.S. Supreme Court, Moore v. Harper, where North Carolina legislators are advancing this crazy independent state legislature theory. I want to walk through why that theory is so insane, but use a very specific example here in Ohio to explain it. Because we've lived this. We have lived in Ohio what this theory would look like if it were applied around the country. In the last year in Ohio, first of all, we have a legislature that's out of control. They're out of control largely because of gerrymandering, where they almost to a person never have a real election, so they don't feel subject to the people of the state anymore. Secondly, they have defied our Ohio Constitution and amendments that were passed by 70% of the people 7 times in the last year. And they've also defied the orders of the Supreme Court of Ohio telling them to follow the Constitution and the will of the people 7 times. So we essentially have a legislature in our state and legislative leaders who do not feel subject to the people, who do not feel like they need to follow the Constitution. They take an oath to follow, and they don't feel like they have to follow the state Supreme Court who tells them to follow the Constitution. You know, if we saw this in other countries, say, my God, that's no longer a functioning democracy. There's no rule of law. That's Ohio right now. The independent state legislature theory would actually say, oh, no, that's all okay. They can do all of these things because of one clause of the Constitution that's never been read that way over centuries. But they would put into place what Ohio has done for the country. Now, why does this not just defy common sense, but why do I say it defies the Constitution itself? Because the founders actually told us this is not how states should be run. There's a clause in the Constitution where it says the United States shall guarantee to every state in this union a Republican form of government, by which they meant the people were sovereign. The people, through their constitutions, through their votes, should be respected in these states. And obviously the courts have a role to make sure the Constitution is followed. When you see what the founders guaranteed to every state, you see that this independent state legislature doctrine makes 0 sense.